Let's finish session 58 talking about, you guessed it, pyramids. Let's begin. For a couple of sessions now, we have been exploring pyramids in depth, or at least as deep as Don wanted to ask questions about. And in this particular session, just as a refresher, we were talking about the spirals of light within the pyramid. So to continue with this session and the rest of the questions that Don has, let me give a refresher on these spirals as I see them and as I have learned them through the diagram that Jim McCarthy did. And Scott Mandelker talks about this as well. And I have my own views on how these spirals relate to the energy centers. But that's another point that I think is helpful to know, just to see the general aspect of the workings of the mind-body-spirit complex by itself, but also within the pyramid. As everything, there is a reflection of the holographic self everywhere. And I like to point out these little things that are equal or seem to be equal, and to see the relatedness that there exists between the concepts that we know as healing, initiation, studying, and adepthood. So in any case, the refresher is remembering the pyramid. We don't need to visualize too much, or we don't need too much visual aid for this. Just to know that within the pyramid at the bottom starts a semi-spiral, which is the scooping of the energy, intelligent energy, prana. This scooping is going to create, because of the shape of the pyramid, it's going to intensify this energy just like a funnel would. It's going to bring the vast abundance of energy, or as a vortex in an ocean, and concentrate it and create a vortex of energy. And just like the energy is felt in a vortex of water, we feel that within the pyramid as energy. And we being energy beings, of course, we're going to feel this in our beingness. And so that is the first semi-spiral. And then it starts the first spiral, which goes through and embraces both the Queen's Chamber and the King's Chamber, which more appropriately should be called the Initiation Chamber and the Healing Chamber, to my understanding at least, or to my preference. That would be the first spiral, the first full spiral. Then there is the second spiral, starting up from above the King's Chamber or Healing Chamber, and then it goes all the way up to the apex of the pyramid. And from there finishes the second spiral, and the third spiral comes out from the tip of the pyramid, if you will, and it radiates out. That would be the third spiral, concentrating the last of the energy, and it's the most potent one for energizing, says Ra. So those were the spirals of light that we were exploring in the last video, the beginning of session 59. And now we're going to continue with the next questions that we have, just to be fully updated. The last question of Don was specifically the coherence and organization that happened at the start of the second spiral, meaning above the King's Chamber. And if there was a doubling effect on there. And Ra just simply said that there is no doubling effect, but a transformation rather that occurs of the dimension of light in this case. And it was a play between time-space and space-time, more than space-time to time-space. Again, the question is rather complicated. If you want to get into the depth of it, go watch my previous video if you haven't. If not, the only important thing here to emphasize is that the first spiral works mostly in space-time to time-space, meaning the physical to the metaphysical. initiation, healing, studying. And then on the second spiral, which is the important one here, it's from time-space to space-time. And this is going to lead to Don's next question, which is going to be our first question here in this video. And that's going to be the work between time-space and space-time. And what is done there, Ra is not clear, so we can go into the first question that I have actually, and I think it makes a great bridge to begin the video and the last part of the session. Question 15, Don says, in the Giza pyramid, there was no chamber at position 2, meaning the second spiral, where it begins above the king's chamber. Do you ever make use of position 2 by putting a chamber in that position, say on other planets or in other pyramids? And you can see that the question was going in the right direction, and it's not about other planets or other, what did he say? You say planets or other pyramids. Ra says this position is useful only to those whose abilities are such that they are capable of serving as conductors of this type of focus spiral. One would not wish to attempt to train third density entities in such disciplines. So it is rather that a chamber there is not helpful for third density, as Ra says, but that it is helpful for entities in other planes, right? They don't say here, I mean, it's implicit that if third density should not be trained in these disciplines, and we know that it is from time-space to space-time that the energy is useful, rather in the pyramid, then it stands to reason that this is work that is done by higher density entities. And now if we overlap this with what Ra says about the position being useful only to those entities whose abilities are such that they are capable of serving as conductors, so passing through the energy, they serve as a bridge or a conductor for the transmission of this energy. And yeah, they say this type of focus spiral, which is a concentration of energy. And so only entities in those densities, I guess, they are capable of using this energy in a coherent way, useful way, or any other utilitarian way for what else? Serving the one creator in whatever fashion they do. I am not sure how this works, and I don't think this goes into further exploration. So question 16 says, Don, then the third spiral radiating from the top of the pyramid, you say, is used for energizing. Can you tell me what you mean by energizing? And Ra says the third spiral is extremely full of the positive effects of directed prana, and that which is placed over such a shape will receive shocks energizing the electromagnetic fields. This can be most stimulating in third density applications of mental and bodily configurations. However, if allowed to be in place over long, such shocks may traumatize the entity. We have talked about this several times, and I don't have my little pyramid here. I gotta confess, ever since Ra said something about the pyramids, and I really didn't consider it, that being next to a pyramid like that, or close to your electromagnetic field, can be deleterious. Not directly under you or energizing you, but just near you. So I put it in the middle of the house where I think it's best. But in any case, a small pyramid like this, which is the only one we can use unless you want to levitate on top of the Giza pyramid or some other big structure, pyramidal structure, then you may want to use a small one, which works pretty well. It's like the coffee, the metaphysical coffee, if you will, which is used underneath you or behind your head. You can use it under your bed or your pillow or under the chair. I use it sometimes. And you're supposed to use it for 20 minutes, 30 minutes tops. So I would just put a timer in 20 minutes. It's better to drink just a little bit of coffee than too much. I don't drink coffee anymore, but see, I'm saying coffee, and I'm reading Ra's part when they say this can be most stimulating like coffee. So yeah, this is used in this fashion, and that is because I am not sure why, but I suppose after the energy has been concentrated and weaved within the pyramid, when it exits this shape, it is a radiation of energy. It's I mean, look how a funnel looks when you're pouring water. It comes out with a stream, right? And it looks concentrated. So being a very poor analogy, I'm sure, in this case, this prana that is concentrated within the pyramid in different spirals, then it shoots out. And that shooting is very well ordered. And so it's very stimulating. So again, we don't know much about how this works or why the energy comes out this way, but that's my speculation. So we can go to question 17, where Don says, are there any other effects of the pyramid shape beside the spirals that we have just discussed? Good question. Ra says, there are several. However, their uses are limited. The use of the resonating chamber position is one which challenges the ability of an adept to face the self. This is one type of mental test which may be used. It is powerful and quite dangerous. I'm going to finish reading this and then I'll go through it again. Ra says and continues, the outer shell of the pyramid shape contains small vortices of light energy, which in the hands of capable crystallized beings are useful for various subtle workings upon the healing of invisible bodies affecting the physical body. Other of these places are those wherein perfect sleep may be obtained and age reversed. These characteristics are not important, so all of you beautiful beings out there, and I mean aesthetically beautiful, who want to preserve your beauty, this is not important. Not age reversal or perfect sleep. So that beauty sleep is not important. That age reversal cream that you have been using, not important. Yes, I had to throw out all my creams and all my pills and my my devices of age reversal because they're not important. I'm kidding. I still have them. Now, I guess I was never interested in that. I never understood why people were so afraid. I mean, I understand from a certain point, but it just didn't, get me the whole idea of maintaining yourself young. You are what you are. You get old, and there's a certain pride in that. There's a certain enjoyment of being old and feeling the way you feel. But yeah, we can talk about this a lot. Age. This is actually, and if you allow me the philosophical rant here, very short rant. This shows, this is a symptom of our fear of death. I recently told someone who walks by my neighborhood, and I'm taking my dog out, and I see her, and we're having, that usual morning exchange of how are you, this and that, and exchanging a couple of things together. And I don't remember how we got into this, but I said, there is a way of saying that you are dying every day. I mean, not that you're dying every day, but you're constantly dying. You're not living, but you're dying, which is true. I mean, you are living is the same thing as saying you're dying. You are getting closer to that point of death. And that was horrifying for her. She was, oh, that sounds awful. But it's just the way we like to see things. We are we're so in love with life that we're afraid of death. But if you were to be in love with death, you would enjoy life much more, I believe. And these necessities of maintaining yourself young, keeping yourself young, the whole sham of what's it called, the plastic surgeons and the, I'm sure, multi-millionaire industry of products that promise you to reverse your age or maintain you young, and all of this is just another symptom of our fear of becoming old, because old means death. I mean, people would say, well, no, it's just the aesthetic part that I'm interested in. Yeah, but what about the beauty of being old, of being, having your gray hair and your wrinkles and your joints getting stiff and so on. I mean, all of this has a beauty to it. There is a certain, like I said, pride, not as a prideful thing, but just enjoying, just like we see a stump in a tree and it's beautiful, and we see a tree next to a young tree or a sprout and it's the same thing. There is just beauty in all of its stages. But we are afraid of this because we think this is our last life, our only last life, and we're so attached to the body. So in any case, I do agree with Rod that this is not important, but not that they mean it aesthetically. They're talking about something else. And this to me is the so what happens, Don is gonna ask about this, so I'm not gonna go into the age reversal and the perfect sleep too much here. Let's save it for the next question. They do say before that there are the outer shell of the pyramid shape contains small vortices of light energy, which in the hands of capable crystallized beings are useful for various subtle, my Spanish just went through right there. Subtle workings upon the healing of invisible bodies affecting the physical body. I have no idea how this works, to be honest. I can understand that there are different beautiful, okay, if you look at a pyramid inside, would it be too far-fetched to think that there are, say, fractals inside of itself, and that things are moving in different resonating patterns? I don't think so. It would be like looking at a Mandelbrot set, where you see the same pattern repeating in smaller aspects. So in the same way, I believe that the subtle workings can be done with these small vortices that are useful for healing. How? I'm not sure, but I'm just guessing that the pyramid is not just one big shell for one sushumna in the center and that's it. It has a lot more to it, and I'm guessing, it could be useful. So, but again, the hands of the capable crystallized being, I don't know anybody like that. I'm sure Ra could explain more, but they don't. And as I keep going back to front, I want to explore this a little bit more, what they said at the beginning. And again, we're exploring the different types of benefits that the pyramid has, or the spirals of energy have within the pyramid that are not from the center 3 spirals. Ra said that that there are several, but their uses are limited. They talk about the resonating chamber position, which is underneath the let's call it the surface part of the pyramid. And that resonating chamber is interesting. They say the ability of an adept to face the self. This is one type of mental test which may be used, and it is quite powerful and dangerous. Okay, so first of all, I remember people talking about the bottom of the pyramid being as a sort of initiation, even though it's not according to Ra. the initiation being in the Queen's Chamber. But at the bottom, it would be like going through the dark night of the soul, because you get to, I think there is a passage in which you get where there's no light. I mean, if it's all dark, you would think that you're trapped, and it gets even narrower and narrower to the point that you think that you're going to just, you have to keep going, but you can't find your way out. And eventually you do find a very small opening in the darkness where you come out. And that has been used to show how we go through a psychological process of a trauma, a catalyst that is very strong, a whatever situation that is very intense. And then we come out of it as after you literally touch the bottom of the pit. And then you only have one way, which is up. And that way up is going to the Queen's Chamber and so forth. So the resonating chamber does have that, even in, I would call it mainstream metaphysics studies, or I don't even know what to call them, but not mainstream science, of course, but the science of metaphysics and the study of the pyramids themselves. Those who are interested in these type of psychological tests, seeing the pyramid this way. So the type of mental test that can be used, I'm not sure how it works, according to Ra, that is. But when they say the use of the resonating chamber position is one which challenges the ability of an adept to face the self. Face the self. Those three words. Face the self. What is facing the self? Well, first of all, who are we is the question, right? Who are you? You don't have to go to the pyramid. Again, if Ra hasn't said it enough, I'm going to be their emissary to say it over and over again. You don't have to be in a pyramid. You don't have to build a pyramid. You don't have to do this in any other way but meditation. That's why meditation is the key thing for anybody who is willing to explore. It's not a necessary thing. I don't think you have to meditate. You can spend obviously your whole life without meditating, and you should be fine. But as a sort of non-activity that you can engage in, if that makes sense in vocabulary wise, I think it's a very helpful thing to do. Why? Because you're facing the self. Who are you facing when you close your eyes? But your thoughts, what you believe you are. It is the mask, the persona that you are facing when you get into the state. So this bears a lot of importance to what it means to evolve spiritually. Spiritually, or spirit being the self, the true self. Spirit is the one God. I mean, it's the Godhead. That is the spirit. When entities of second density are in spirit, I like saying that they are now endowed with the gift of self-reflection. The word says it. What is self-reflection? Looking at yourself. So this is the channel of the spirit, self-reflection, being able to see yourself. Now, how do we see ourselves? At the very core of it is always looking at awareness. When we face ourselves, we face awareness itself. And awareness simply is. We can't have thoughts about awareness. I mean, we can have thoughts about awareness, but we cannot recreate awareness within thoughts, because thoughts are limited and awareness is not. Awareness is infinite. And so when you face the self, the true self, this is what you find. Whether you do it in a pyramid, or you do meditation, contemplation, or whatever it is that you do. But what happens here, and why Ra says it is powerful and quite dangerous, I believe, and I will use the very distorted analogy of psychedelics once again, because they are powerful and quite dangerous as well. Dangerous in the sense of metaphysic work, not in the physical. We know that psychedelics obviously are not. I don't want to come across like I'm bashing psychedelics. I am a product of psychedelics. So please never believe that anything that I say about psychedelics can be, let's say, against it. Let's just put it that way. But to me, they work both ways. They, it's like a knife. A knife can be used as a tool or as a weapon. And metaphysically, psychedelics can indeed be not used as a weapon for yourself, but you can start cutting yourself, let's say, with a knife. And that's not helpful. And so, why is it dangerous? Because whether it is in psychedelics or not, in an altered state of consciousness, you are facing the apparent self to get to the self. When you meditate, you go through the tunnel of thoughts for however long it takes you until you reach that source. And then sometimes it pulls you back. Your thoughts pull you back and say, oh, awareness is boring. Come back. Let's think about this. Remember this, or project the future this way. So, for somebody who is a mystic, then, hey, no problem. We just go back to awareness, and that's cool. But for somebody who, say, is so entranced with the Matrix, if you will, what would happen? It would be the destruction of that view. In fact, it is, and this goes with psychedelics strongly, it is very possible. I remember when I did my ayahuasca ceremony that they told us, don't look at the mirror. The mirrors are actually covered in the bathroom. If you have to go to the bathroom, please do not uncover them and don't look in the mirror. I have done it. All I saw was myself. I'm not very, I don't have much of a sensitivity to psychedelics or to metaphysics in general, which I don't know what that means, but I am not quite sensitive at all. And I've actually purposely done it and looked at myself, and I think it was more the expectation of looking at something that was more intense than anything that I saw. Where I have seen people, Julie included, that have seen things there. Fortunately, nothing terrifying. But some people do find terrifying stuff. They don't even have to look in mirrors. Their mind is the mirror. And just to put a little bit more of coherence to what I'm saying is that when you face yourself, the apparent self, you're facing the mask of who you think you are. And sometimes you could be walking with a monster mask, being very toxic and just terrible to other people. And you see that for the first time. It's like you're taken out of your persona. And awareness look at itself, or it looks at the product of all that karma, movement, inertia that has been going on, and this is why it's so helpful for healing. But it is dangerous because people can not lose their mind, but be very affected, and they could come out quite distorted after it because they have no idea what they saw. I don't mean to bring this to a full psychedelic experience healing sort of thing, but I just wanted to enhance a little bit more what Ross said here about powerful and quite dangerous on facing the self. If we're talking about the self being God, why is it so hard to face God? Because what you think you are, and when you come out with your ego, this is what we do every day. This is why life is so tough for a lot of people, because we're coming out to life with that same monstrosity of ego, trying to dominate life, and that's just not who we are. And most importantly, we're not, at least I would think the vast majority of you are not oriented towards the negative, which actually makes use of this monstrosity of the ego, but they're quite brilliant about it. They're skillful at using the ego for their purposes. And so while they're monstrous to other people, they're gods themselves. They're doing just fine. In fact, they are evolving more than us. So all the struggles that we find in life, all of the problems are bursting out of an incoherence of the ego, the mask, the persona that we think we are, and is repressing the actual self that is waiting to be realized. So I'm sorry that I took so much time here, but this to me is quite powerful. It is the knowing that we're talking about pyramids, but we know that the work within the pyramids is something that we can do naturally. I always say meditation because you don't need anything external. You can only do it. I mean, you don't need anything, really. You don't need legs. You don't need a mouth. I mean, you don't need anything, just your mind. Meditation can be done by simply being. This is why meditation is the nature of ourselves. It's only a return to the self. And so using this and using our life, our work, school, family, friends as reflections of ourselves, we can do so much work. And I think it's the best option that we have rather than anything external, being a pyramid, psychedelics, a state of sensory deprivation, or esports like some people do to feel alive again, or any other substances they may take, alcohol, whatever. I'm not against any of that, whatever. It's just, I think it's more balanced to do it yourself, to not rely on anything external. Speaking of external, we still have more pyramid questions, and I left you with the cliffhanger of reversal of age. And so Don in question 18 is going to ask, what position would be the age reversal position? Ra says, approximately 5 to 10 degrees above and below the Queen's Chamber position, in ovoid shapes on each face of the four-sided pyramid, extending into the solid shape approximately 1/4 of the way to the Queen's Chamber position. So these are coordinates that I don't have very well pictured in my mind, but I can guess that they're going upwards if we see the pyramid as its usual position in ovoid shape. So it's going kind of sideways into all of the four sides of the pyramid. So I'm thinking at least four metaphysical chambers that exist in those positions. And they say approximately 1/4 of the way to the Queen's Chamber position. Don is going to ask something else, so let's go to that and then we'll revisit this. Don says, in other words, if I went just inside the wall of the pyramid 1/4 of the way, but still remained 3/4 of the way from the center at approximately the level above the base of the Queen's Chamber, I would find that position. Ra says, this is approximately so. You must picture the double teardrop extending in both the plane of the pyramid face and in half towards the Queen's Chamber, extending above and below it. You may see this as the position where the light has been scooped into the spiral and then is expanding again. This position is what you may call a prana vacuum. And I think that's the most important phrase, prana vacuum, for what we want to know about age reversal. But to make a very clumsy attempt to point out these positions, if I can understand this, we have to picture the double teardrop. Does that mean up above and below the Queen's Chamber? Perhaps because they say extending in both the plane of the pyramid face, right, and in half towards the Queen's Chamber, extending above and below. So this, you may see this as the position where the light has been scooped into the spiral and then it's expanding again. So scooped into the spiral and it's expanding again at the bottom and at the top, maybe. This position is, okay, what we call the prana vacuum. I don't know. A greater mind than mine can possibly do this diagram, and I would be very, very happy to see it. But the important thing is just wherever these parts are in the pyramid, they create a prana vacuum. So how does this help in age reversal? Oh my god, every question that I'm going to cover. Let me just finish what Don was asking here. Don says, why would this reverse aging? Why would this reverse aging? Ross says, aging is a function of the effects of various electromagnetic fields upon the electromagnetic fields of the mind-body-spirit complex. In this position, there is no input or disturbance of the fields, nor is any activity within the electromagnetic field complex of the mind-body-spirit complex allowed full sway. The vacuum sucks any such disturbance away. Thus, the entity feels nothing and is suspended. Okay, now I can talk about the reverse aging. How I believe this works. Well, first of all, we are eternal, right? That's what we are. That's our nature. The nature of our energy is to be eternal. So why do we age? Well, first we're manifested in third density. Third density has the illusion of time. This is one of the aspects that makes us believe that we have a linear time when we don't, because linear time is gauged by the change in position of things, right? You can only know time if there are two things in the universe or in space. If you only have space, you have no idea what's going on. There's nothing. And you're pure awareness. There's nothing. There's just space. If you put a ball in space, nothing's happening either. You have no idea what's happening. You have no frame of reference. If you put two balls, then you have the idea of time, if they are moving. Which, if they are moving, then you can now measure time. Time has come into existence. And so we have this idea in space-time that there is such thing as linear time. Of course, we have so many frame of references that we say time is flowing. But what is happening is that these changes, let's call it changes, in the apparent structure of matter or energy is it's accelerating at some point, or it's at a constant in others, depending on what we're looking at and how our discernment decides to judge it. So these changes happen because prana is flowing. It's as simple as that. Prana is flowing in the way that we as a mind-body-spirit complex with our 7 energy centers distort it. And that distortion causes certain variations in our energy centers, which we call individuality. That prana that is flowing is being filtered, it's being painted, it's being structured by the artistic nature of the mind-body-spirit complex. We are the artist of prana. We distort prana in such and such a way that we create individuality. We have all sorts of individuals. None can be the same, the universe being infinite. And so, this is the flow of life. It's the constant changing and morphing and molding of prana into different configurations of the various energy centers. Simple as that. So, this is the prana flowing. If we enter a prana vacuum, what happens? Well, there is no prana. And that which we are, right, which is a center, right, and there is a self there. There is a configuration of energy centers. I love the way they put it, and I'm going to read it because I know it sounds very daunting when we read it, but Ra says, aging is a function of the effects of various electromagnetic fields upon the electromagnetic fields of the mind-body-spirit complex. So, interaction between electromagnetic fields. From the planets to the cosmic rays to your cell phone and everything else, and you are an electromagnetic field. Your cells have electromagnetic fields and so on. So it's an interaction of all of these. Now, in this position, in the pyramid where there is a prana vacuum, there is no input or disturbance of the fields. So first, there is no input, nothing seems to be flowing, or disturbance. Nothing is causing friction or rejection or whatever. Nor is any activity within the electromagnetic field of the body, the self. I'm not going to read the rest. Allowed to be complex, allowed full sway. So, and this is again the way I see it. If this is creating a suspension, that's what Ra says, right? The entity feels nothing and is suspended, then you are not further distorting your energy centers, and by the nature of your energy centers, they should realign themselves and be placed in a position of, say, youth, in the sense that anything that has occurred, I would think this can be healing in the complex of the body. But I don't think this would be helpful as healing, otherwise they would have used it. And this is my take on this, because we're talking about perfect healing, right? We're going into age reversal, you feel young again, you're able to confront catalyst. But that is a wrong view. And let me explain why. Because if we have this view that we are the product of deterioration of prana, then we're actually talking about metaphysical decay, which is a fallacy. What we're looking at, say my body, who has a lot of back issues, that's my problem. That doesn't mean that I didn't use catalyst. I am using the catalyst. I didn't use it mentally, so now it's physical. But I am still accepting my catalyst, whatever that is. I don't know. It went into the physical, and it's fine. I could reverse age and everything will come, back, but I haven't used that catalyst mentally, so I'll have to repeat the catalyst. You understand what I'm saying here? Reversal of aging doesn't mean that you heal as a lesson, but rather that you revert back to the configuration that you were naturally intended to have for the use of catalyst. But if you haven't used that catalyst efficiently, then guess what? You're going to have to use it again. And so this is why I think this is not important. These qualities are not important, except for the preservation of food. See? That would be something cool. Because we are preserving food, just like Russian experiments and others around the world have tried and shown that you can put food within the pyramid and they would preserve better than in a fridge, of course. And I would think cold has a similar effect because it lowers the vibration of the food, or anything for that matter. As Walt Disney still preserves, or so they say. In any case, this is why I think this is not important. Sorry to pop your bubble. Age reversal is not something important. But yeah, let's go on. We have more pyramids. Question 21. Don says, is the pyramid shape that Jim has constructed in our yard functioning properly? Is it aligned properly and built properly? Ra says, it is built within good tolerances, though not perfect. However, its alignment should be as this resting place for maximum efficacy. Now, bear in mind that last part, what Ra says, that it should be as this resting place for maximum efficacy. Don furthers question, do you mean that one of the base sides should be aligned 20 degrees east of north? Ra says the alignment would be efficacious. Don says again, previously you stated that one of the base's side, or the base sides, should be aligned with magnetic north. Which is better to align, he asks, this is a question actually. Which is better, to align with magnetic north or to align with 20 degrees east of magnetic north? Ra says, this is at your discretion. The proper alignment for you is, okay. Let's rewind, H reversal here, and restart. This is at your discretion, meaning where the face of the pyramid will face. The proper alignment for you of this sphere at this time is magnetic north. However, in your query, you ask specifically about a structure which has been used by specific entities whose energy vortices are more consonant with the, shall we say, true color green orientation. This would be the 20-degree east of north. There are advantages to each orientation. The effect is stronger at magnetic north and can be felt more clearly. The energy, though weak, coming from the now distant but soon to be paramount direction is more helpful. The choice is yours. It is the choice between quantity and quality, or wideband and narrowband aid in meditation. So we can cover all of this in one shot. So Jim built a pyramid, and Don wanted to know if it was built properly. Ra simply said, well, you may want to face it 20 degrees magnetic to magnetic north. So whatever directions they had it, I suppose. I don't know if the magnetic north is exactly physical north. I think not. But if, I suppose, I don't know. I'm a little confused here, but whatever direction that was magnetic north, then Ra said, you can move it 20 degrees more. Why is the question. The energies from 4 density are coming more from the, or they're beaming, if you can point to a direction in space-time. They're beaming 20 degrees east, so northeast, from the magnetic north. And so they said Carla, that's why I said, remember that phrase, the instrument's position or the working of the session. Carla was always aligned 20 degrees east of magnetic north in the channeling. You see how they say narrow band at the end? Like it's choice between wide band, that would be magnetic north, or narrow band, which is 20 degrees off to the east. Because they are, those of Ra, of narrow band, and I suppose they could use better the 4 density frequency to communicate, or there is something there. I'm not going to say anything specific, but it seems that it matches. They say we are a narrow band transmission. Ra said at the beginning of the Ra contact. And so they say the same thing here. It's a choice between that or quantity, which is magnetic north, or quality, which is 20 degrees east, where we're basically feeling more the energies of 4 density. And that's why Ra says that it is a choice between getting more. Actually, I already said that. It is what they say is that the energy, though weak, coming from the now distant but soon to be paramount direction, is more helpful. Why it is more helpful? Because the people who are more susceptible, sensitive to the 4th density energies, then why not use that as opposed to use the 3rd density? I suppose they didn't say 3rd density, but I would say it's our current 3rd density energies, which are still helpful. It's not that they're useless, but I would think that's more for the people who need a more intense guide, healing, not healing, but well, it could be healing, but yeah, some sort of intensity that is stronger. So they would face magnetic north as it is, and nothing else. So again, these are all just nuances of where to point your pyramid if you want to build it and meditate inside, or even to lay down and meditate, just like Carla used to. 20 degrees of magnetic north, whatever that is. As you can see, I'm not very interested into all these coordinates. I'm more interested in the mind. I'm fascinated by the mind, because I think that's where all the work can be done, regardless of any other external or alignment and anything else. Obviously, all of these things are helpful, but I think the study of the mind is the most important. In any case, we got till the last question. Hooray. Question 24, Don says, when the planetary axes realign, will they realign 20 degrees east of north to conform to the green vibration, meaning for density? Ra says, we fear this shall be the last question as this entity rapidly increases its distortion towards what you call pain of the body complex. There is every indication that this will occur. We cannot speak of certainties, but are aware that the grosser or less dense materials will be pulled into conformation with the denser and lighter energies which give your logos its proceedings through the realms of experience. So, as a last question here, coming out of pyramids and foreshadowing the next session, which is the last time we talk about pyramids, I believe, for a while, and I believe for sure at a dedicated session or line of questioning like Don used to have. We have this last question about the fourth density. When the transition happens, if it will realign that way to the 20 degrees. And Ra says, as usual, let's give a little bit of praise to Ra here, as I always say, for saying something like this. They say, there is every indication that this will occur, right? We cannot speak of certainties, but are aware that the grosser or less dense materials will be pulled into conformation with the denser and lighter energies which give your logos its proceedings through the realms of experience. First, I love that Ra says, well, everything seems to point that way, but we cannot speak of certainties. We never speak of certainties because we're speaking of the future. We're talking about the future. So what if we blow ourselves up? What is gonna Ra say? I did say that it was, yes. I mean, it's not that they are afraid of it, but they know. You know, they know that they don't know. And they know that the future cannot be predicted. So I just love that this is part of their language. This is not something that they say as a sort of warning or anything, but it's just part of their language. And through this, you see, when you study the Ra material, you get to see these nuances in speech that Ra has, and that really puts him in that position of a compassionate and wise master, which I think is the best combination you can find in anybody or any guru, master, or whatever, is the combination of wisdom and compassion. Huge, very important. However, I would like to elaborate a little bit more on what they say on this. They say they are aware that the grosser or less dense materials will be pulled into conformation with the denser and lighter energies. Now, what are they saying? First of all, they say the grosser or less dense. That would be our physical material, our space-time material. This material will be pulled. Not the material itself, because we are still going to have a first, second, third unactivated in potentiation while we do the transition to fourth, but we will have them eventually once we do the graduation to fourth and we learn to become four density entities in the process of what's the word? Getting used to four density vibrations, put it that way, getting accustomed to it. Then third density eventually will be bright again and will allow third density bodies to be in. And so it is mostly that our mind, body, spirit complexes, the grosser material, right, will be pulled into conformation with the vibration of four density. And this is the lighter energies that they talk about. The lighter energies, you can see it as the frequencies of four density. They will become conformed with the denser in terms of light, and grosser will become lighter. So you see, there are two things. When we talk about densities of consciousness, I like to paint them as there are higher densities of information and light, and they are lighter in terms of the physical complex or complexes that we deal with in those densities. So we work more with light and information, and that means a lighter body. Now, the other part that I think is interesting that they mention here is when they say lighter energies which give your logos its proceedings through the realms of experience. This to me shows the clockwork of the galaxy that has created a pattern for the evolution of its logoi. What does this mean? That all the logoi are moving through their specific what's the word again? There are specific times, there are specific clocks. And so there is a specific clock, cosmic clock, that is ticking around our logos, and it's inviting or allowing it to go through the 4 density now for the experiences of planet Earth, at least. This makes me wonder if... I'm not sure how this clock works. I have so many questions right now. But what they're saying is that these light energies give our logos, right? So these energies are giving. It's like you see, the NASA has this, I think it was at the beginning of the 2004, around there, NASA discovered that there is a cloud of energy that they didn't expect it, that where the solar system is going through. So the heliosphere, that the last part of the atmosphere of the sun, is now entering this space. And lo and behold, this was prior to 2012, so it makes sense that we're entering this cloud of energy that NASA says we had no idea was there. Now we're entering it, and it's causing some sort of friction in the heliosphere, again, the atmosphere of the sun. And so this is to me what Ross says, the lighter energies which give your logos its proceedings through the realms of experience. What are the realms of experience? The densities of consciousness. And what gives the logos its proceedings is the galaxy and the specific clock that has the sign for every logo. So, a lot to rant on here, but you got to the end. This is all we have for session 59. We're done with pyramids for now. I think there are more questions about pyramids in the next session, so those who enjoy it, enjoy the last bit that we have in the next session, and rewatch the other ones if you like. But that's all we got for pyramids. Conclusions. So we talked about a couple of things that I like to emphasize, which is, again, the most important: facing the self. There is only one self. You see, what you see is what you are. When you interact with other people, when you think about reality, when you watch the news, when you watch me, when you get inspired and depressed, you're looking at yourself. There is only one self. When you face the self, it's more than just the mundane experience of, yes, I'm looking at the world and whatever, but you are sitting down in reflection. Mindfulness is important here because you are accepting that what you see is yourself out there. And this becomes very, very helpful for the evolving spirit, or the evolving soul rather, because you can begin to see those aspects of yourself that are not consonant with who you are. Those things that make you feel upset, jealous, envious, or angry, or whatever other negative feeling that you may have. And so it's very helpful to see the world as the self, and very healing. It heals a lot the mind, body, spirit complex by looking at those things that are distorted within you. There is only one self, like I said, and that is you. When you face those dark parts of yourself, all you're seeing is that which is not. And so it's It's a very efficient way to explore your own self and reality as a whole. More of this is, to me, relevant in non-duality, which I think is the most beautiful philosophy that we have. It's not even a philosophy, it's a form of psychotherapy. It's not even a form, it is the most advanced psychotherapy that we have, which is the study of the mind. Like I said, I'm very interested in the study of the mind, and I have my own desires of creating all these videos talking about non-duality, because even though the law of one consumes a lot of my time, non-duality is the backbone of how I perceive the world, the universe, the cosmos, everything, and of course, myself. So I will be sharing those with you, for those who are not aware of it, and I'm excited to start talking about this. I do already in my podcast, which you can follow and check in all the different platforms, Google, Spotify, iTunes, of course here on YouTube. And you can listen to me talk about this stuff now and then. That's all I got for today. Thank you so much, seriously, for watching, for listening, and for being part of this very niche circle of Law of One students. I appreciate you. I'll see you in session 60.